Okay, so let's continue with our example. Right now, we are generating and rendering some generic widgets. You know, WT1, WT2. They don't really mean anything. So let's improve this example by looking at some actual types of widgets, maybe a heading widget, a list widget, and just see how we would implement those. All right. So that's one thing. The other thing is, at some point, these need to come from a database, right? From a server. The server needs to provide this list. So interesting is to look at how is it that the state, the reducer state, instead of having a hard-coded initial state, right? Instead, that should come from the server. So at some point, you know, when it boots up, when your application starts, it needs to go to the server and say, okay, what are my courses, right? What are the modules? What are the widgets? What are the topics? What is there in the server, right? So let's look at that. We'd like to, you know, how do we retrieve data from the server, and also at some point I need to save all the widgets that I've been editing. Right now, if I refresh, I lose all my state. So how does that state get synchronized with the server? So let's take a look at those two things. First, let's look at creating some more meaningful types of widgets, not these generic type 1, type 2, type 3. So let's look at one simple one. The heading widget, right? So a widget that allows you to just create multiple headings, right? Heading 1, heading 2, heading 3. Okay. So first of all, we'll need to create a component for it. Let's go into our project, and in our list of widgets here, let's create a brand new heading widget. All right, so this will be a starter file, and this will be the heading widget.js. Okay, and for now, let's just have something static. Make sure that we can load this heading widget. So it will import React from React, and we're going to export a function called heading widget. Okay, that for now, the only thing that it's going to do is going to return heading widget. Okay, let's make sure we can load that and display it if there is a widget of type heading. Okay, so to do that, we'll need to declare in our reducer a brand new type of widget of type heading. So let's copy that, and this will be, the title will be heading 1, or heading widget 1. Okay, and the type will be heading, and the ID will be 1. Everybody okay? All right. So notice that if we render that, notice that it does not show up, right? Because we only know of widgets of type WT1, 2, and 3. There is no heading type widget. Okay. So let's fix that. Let's if we go to our component, in our component down below is where we were rendering all our types of widgets, right? WT1, 2, 3. We can add this brand new type of widget. If the widget type is heading, then we are going to load here the heading widget. Okay, that we need to import from here. So this will be import the heading widget. There we go. Right, there it is. Right, so our heading widget was loaded because it is type of heading. Right, but we can't create a brand new heading widget. So let's fix that. We can add in our dropdown something that says heading, and this is heading widget. Okay, and let's see. Let's create a brand new heading. So this might be heading 1, 2, 3, and this will be of type heading widget. We'll say add. Looks like it's working, right? We just added a heading 1 widget, and the content in there is just heading widget. Everybody okay? So we can create brand new heading widgets. Very good. All right. So what would we want in a heading widget? A widget from the faculty's point of view, it would be that I'm trying to generate content of a brand new heading, right? Section 1, Section 2, Section 1, 3.2, or whatever, right? These are the headings of my content. I like to be able to set the text, the actual text. I like to set also the size of the heading. So it's a form that will allow me to generate it. So let's do that. So let's see what we would want in there. So let's go into our heading widget, and this will look something like this. It'll have a div. So it'll probably have a form that would allow me to type in the text of the widget, right? So this might be a placeholder that says heading text. Oops. Heading text, and probably a drop-down that would allow me to select the size of the widget, right? So it'll be something like select, and this will be option and value 1, and this will be heading 1. Oops. Something like that. Something like that. So we have the text and we have the drop-down. Right? The drop-down will probably have a couple of values. So let's do 4 types, so 4 sizes. Oops. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, we have 4 sizes. Everybody good? All right, let's make this maybe a little bit prettier. Let's do class for name. This will be form control, and this too will be class for name form control. All right, so they span the width of the, and maybe have some labels at the top, and this will be maybe label, and this will be heading text. I think they are required in the assignment that you have labels in there, even though the wireframes are not showing it. And this is the size, heading size, something like that. And as good practice, just to make a better experience and on a mobile phone, obviously I can click on the input field to make it focus. But if I make this label also clickable, it just makes it so much easier on the user, to click somewhere in the vicinity. So to do that, we can add an ID and call this text, and then the label can say that this is for text. Okay. So now if I click on the heading text, notice that it also gives me focus on the input field. So you should apply that technique always. I notice that it's complaining about something. Let's see what it's complaining about. So notice that for is a reserved word, right, in JavaScript. So what they're suggesting is that instead of using the for keyword, to instead use the HTML4. Right, so I'm going to replace this for HTML4. Okay. What else? And this label also, perhaps we should also give an ID here. And this is size. And then we can say HTML4 size. Okay, so if I click on this, it focuses on the drop-down. Everybody okay? All right, awesome. All right, so what do we want to do? What we'd like to be able to do is type here or select here, right, and modify the state of this widget, right, and say that, oh, this particular widget's property, text, and size have changed. Right? They should notify the state, change the state, right? So that it reflects the change. All right, so let's do that. How do we do that? Well, as we did earlier, right? We need to notify. We need to notify the reducer. We need to dispatch event handler saying that to update the widget. I think we did that already in some of the other widgets. Maybe, okay, there, we have an update widgets being passed to us. See that? These two attributes, these two properties are being passed to us, the widget itself and the update widget. So let's grab those in the property. The widget and the update widgets are being passed to us in the property. Okay, maybe we can make that a little bit more readable. There we go. So what we need to do is change that widget, right? And then notify the update widget that the widget has changed, so that the reducer gets notified. It looks up that widget in the array of widgets, and it modifies that one particular widget, right? When the ID has changed of that particular widget has changed. Make sense? All right. So let's do that. For that, we'll need to declare a couple of variables. All right. So let's change this to have a body, a function with a body, and have a return here. Okay, so that we were just 2 seconds ago, but now we can declare variables to bind these two fields, right? The input field and the select field. So we can bind to the native low-level node. So we'll declare those two variables, say that let text and let size. So two variables, we're going to bind to the node, right? So to do that, we're going to use the ref attribute. So that's going to allow us to bind to the low-level node. That's going to pass us to us as a function, and we can say text is equal to node. So now we have a reference to that low-level node of the input field, and same thing we're going to do for the same thing for the select statement. We're going to say ref node, and we're going to grab the size. So now we have reference to both. Right? We have reference to both. So that we can grab the text and the size. Everybody okay? All right. All right. So when should we call the update widget? Well, we could have a button that says, "Okay, I'm done." Right? I've selected it. I've typed it. Go and update the widget. Or we could do that as I type, on the fly. Right? For every little change that I make, I change the state. I could do either one. I'm going to go with the later one, right? On the fly, we're going to notify, change it. One of the things that's going to buy us is that we can have like a preview, right? That as we type, we can see the preview change. We can see the heading, how it would look like. That's nice, right? As opposed to, type, click, and then I see what the way it changes, right? It's nice if it's on the fly. So to do that, we're going to do an on change. As the input changes, right, we're going to dispatch an event to update the widget. We're going to say on change. Right, so if this input changes, right, we're going to do the following. We're going to do the following. Well, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to grab the text. Right, we're going to grab the text from the input field. And we're going to put it in our widget. We're going to say widget, right? Widget, which has been passed to us as an argument, right? We have the property widget. I'm going to set the text attribute to be text.value. Okay, so now the widget has a text value. Yes, right? Now, but now only the component knows about it, right? The DOM is not going to be re-updated unless the state changes. And right now, the only way that we know how to change the state is to notify and dispatch an event that something changed. Right? And this is the only place that we know how to do that. We're going to call update widget, update widget. And I forget what the update widget took as an argument. Was it the widget itself? I think so, right? Let's see. In the container, here's update. In the update, yeah, it took the widget as an argument, right? And it passed the whole widget as an argument. Yes? So perfect. We passed the whole widget in the update widget. Excellent. So that's going to be dispatched, right? It's going to be dispatched with the type update widget, and the whole widget is going to be passed along to the reducer. Right? So the reducer is going to receive it. It's going to receive it right here in the action. It's going to look at the action type. It's going to be update widget, and then it's going to iterate over all the widgets, looking for the widget ID that just changed. Okay, and right now it was just changing the type. It was only changing the type. So we need to refactor this a little bit so that it's more generic. Right? I don't want to have to come in here and every little piece say, oh, well, now I want to change the text, the size, the font, the color, right? So instead, I just want something a little more generic. How about I just replace the entire widget that was there with a brand new version that I just generated, right? Because here in the component, in the heading component, I have the widget. This is the widget that was provided to me from the state. I have everything in there, okay? Of which I'm only changing the text, but I still have all the other properties are there. You know, the ID is there, right? The type is there, the widget type is there, the title is there. It's still there. I'm only changing the text. So if I copy this entire new object that has everything and I replace the old one, that'd be perfect. So how do I do that? So let's go back to the reducer. So let's rewrite this a little bit and say, okay, basically, if it is the ID, if it is the widget ID, notice that this widget here is the one we're iterating over. It's the old widget. Yeah, it's the old widget. Whereas action widget is the new widget. Right? So ideally, I could just do what? I could just return action widget. I could do this. Just return the action.widget. That is the new widget that has the text that I just added, right? Okay. Otherwise, return the old widget. This says, otherwise return the old widget. But if it's that ID, right? If it's that ID, return the widget that was passed to you in the action that has this new text field that wasn't there before. Okay. So let's try that. Actually, how could we test it? We would need somewhere to actually render it. What we could do here is have a preview right down below, down this right after the select, right after the drop down. We could have a little preview here, right? So this is H3, so this might be H4 preview, and we can render here what the widget text is. Right? Hopefully, as we type. Okay. All right. So let's see. And indeed, it works. Right? It is being sent over to the reducer. The reducer finds that particular widget ID. It takes the new version, the action.widget, as opposed to the old widget. Right? If it's that ID. If it's not, it'll take the old widgets. Okay. And then it sent it over again into the container. The container maps the widgets from the state to the widgets property, and then it gets re-rendered here. Okay, all right, awesome. So that worked. Yeah, that worked. What about the size? What about the size? So we're going to follow the same idea, right? As we change the size, we're going to notify the reducer, saying that, hey, the widget's changed. Okay, so we'll do the same thing. We're going to do onChange, and we'll do a function. And what we'll do is that we'll update the widget.size, which is not an element that was there before. That's the beauty of JavaScript. JavaScript is very malleable. If a property is not there, it'll be added on the fly. Okay, so you can add. This would be like a Java class that you can add, private variables on the fly, right? So it's treated like a map, as if it were a map, right? This is another alternative syntax which somebody might find a little more that makes more sense. Okay, now it's a map. I understand that a map could mutate, right? It's a map. I can add new as an index, right? I can index new keys and put values in there. So some folks might prefer this syntax, but this syntax is totally equivalent to the dot notation. Okay, so they're interchangeable, these two notations. Right? This is for more folks that prefer the object notation as opposed to the map notation. All right, so in the size, what are we going to put in the size? We're going to put the size, the node that we had earlier, the value in there, right? We're going to put the value, and then and then we're going to notify the update widget function and pass the widget. Okay? And just to make sure that indeed it's being rendered, we can do widget.size. Remember, this is going to be sent over to the reducer. The reducer is going to find that particular widget. It's going to return the new widget, right? And it's going to regenerate a new state with this particular widget being brand new. It's going to go to the container. The container is going to map it. It's going to send it over to the component, and the component is going to re-render it. Right? So that circle we saw earlier, right? All right, so let's try it. Let's see. Notice we have the dash because we don't have text. So this is the text. This is the text, and the heading, we can say 3, and notice that it renders 3, right, or renders 2, or whatever. Everybody okay? Everybody good? Okay. So what we'd like to be able to do is actually render this the way it should look like. Right? So what we could do is here have a in the preview, we could say, well, we'd say if the widget dot size is equal to 1, then right? We can render as h1, and the content is widget.text. We could do it here inline, or this could be a whole component, right? This could be an entire new component that we can inject here, but it's too trivial to be its own component, right? I'll just do it on inline right here, okay? And we could do this 4 times, depending on the size, 2, 3, 4. And this could be 2, 3, and 4, right? So now we can say that this is the text, and that doesn't seem to be working. Wait, what? Oh, because I don't have an actual size. There we go. So heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, and heading 4. Right? So it is changing on the fly. We could have a default size. That's why before it wasn't rendering, because it had no default size. So for instance, we could we could perhaps here be smart and check to see if there is no size, then start with size 1, right? When we create a brand new one, check to see if the widget.size is undefined. If it's undefined, then set it to 1, for instance. Okay. All right. So and we don't need this anymore, right? We don't need that anymore. And we see that the preview seems to be working, right? So this is the text. But we don't have a size. So size number 2, 3, or 4 becoming smaller and smaller. And we generate it like that. Everybody okay? Make sense? All right, awesome. All right, so let's take another look at another type of widget, a little more complex. Right? Let's take a look at a list widget. Let's take a look at the list widget. Yes? Yep. This is the preferred way, right? So basically, what it does is that where are we? Basically, what the ref attribute does, right? It calls a function, right? And it passes it the native low-level JavaScript DOM representation of that particular element, right? And then you can do whatever you want with it, right? It just gives it to you. In our particular case, what we're doing is that we're storing it in a local variable so that we can use it later, right? So that we can access it. So for instance, if this were a checkbox, we would like to check to see if it's checked, right? Or if it's a drop-down, we'd like to know what the current drop-down value is, right? And so these .value, .check, these are all low-level JavaScript DOM elements representations, right? So that's what the ref does. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at the list widget.